Hello and welcome to As It Is Written in the Cosmos. An object in motion tends to remain in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. If we were to get on a raft in a river, then we would travel along with the river. When it comes to life, society flows along together towards an ultimate destination like a river towards the ocean. As a result, when we go with the flow of society and do not attempt to fight the current, then we face the least resistance. If we want to go against the current, in order to do so, we must exert sufficient energy to overcome the opposing force. If we simply fight the current, try as we might, we will still float along with the river steadily. When water absorbs energy, it can evaporate and rise from the flowing river. It can then reach the skies and once more descend to follow the life cycle of water. In the process, it shapes the landscapes, defining how the world is seen. As we go through life, we each play our part in shaping the world. When we are carried along by the flow of society, the current keeps us in motion. If we want to steer our lives in a different direction, then it is important that we grow so that the momentum of society relatively shrinks. When we are powerless, then we are at the mercy of the river. However, when we increase our energy, then we can more easily stand against opposing flows. This increase in energy is a result of raising our awareness in the same ways as learning a new language, math, science, or any other subject. Through learning new concepts and topics and broadening the expanse of connections we have made, we increase our power, which is defined as the amount of energy transferred or converted per unit time. The more we learn, the more we grow through the octaves of the cosmos and pull in more information to fuel our minds. In this way, we can become like a planet, then like a star and beyond. And in so doing, what was once an overwhelming current can become like a trickle as we grow to be largely unaffected by the momentum of society. Like a large boulder in the middle of a flowing river, we are planted in our position and do not succumb to the current. Such an object needs to be dense. The density of a material is defined as the mass per volume. This can be compared with the depth of awareness we have regarding parts of the picture of reality. If we are aware of many concepts but have not looked closely into any, then the density of the information we have will be low, like a beach ball. Alternatively, if we have closely inspected any topics, then the mass per volume of the information will be relatively high, and us, as a result, much less movable. If we have done so for many topics, then our density will be high, as well as the overall mass and volume of our awareness. If we grow sufficiently, then perhaps we can even redirect the flow of society to be in a different direction. When we attempt to move society, it is like putting the weight of the world on our shoulders. We are each equals, and as a result, the weight of all of society is extremely overburdening. As things are, we turn to the few to carry the weight. However, this has unintended consequences. This process can be likened to a nail. If we stand a nail straight upward and then lay down on it, putting all our weight upon it, we will inevitably puncture our skin and wound ourselves. This can lead to infection and disease, and even worse if we are not mindful. In the same way, if we put the entire weight of society on one or a few, then society will inevitably have the same outcome. The fabric of society will rupture, and we will deal with the ramifications of placing our body weight onto a single or few nails. Alternatively, if we lay on a bed of nails, then we can do so without harm. This is because the weight of our body is equally distributed across many nails. Notably, if any of the nails are longer than the others, then we will still run the risk of harming ourselves. This can be applied to society. When we are equals, then we are like nails of the same length. When we are all this way, then we are like a bed of nails composed of billions upon billions of points. With enough nails, the bed becomes alike to a smooth surface, and even the discomfort can be alleviated. And as a result, we can each carry our own portion of the weight of the body of society. With this, waves can become ripples, and even the ripples can be calmed. When few are above many, the fabric of society can have shock waves that ride outward and knock all off balance. The further above, the greater the amplitude of the wave created. When many are above few, then like a body on a bed of nails, the weight can be supported by the many so that the few can freely grow without pressure holding them down. Thus, in this way, we can look to physics to better understand which steps can be taken to restore order in society. This is more than an analogy, but rather it is reference to the instruction manual of life, which is not written in a booklet or in a history book, but rather it is written in the cosmos. If we consider the periodic table with respect to changes in society, the same upper limit of growth exists as with radioactive elements. In the earlier stages of the periodic table, the half-life of atoms stays relatively similar unless we ultimately assign the label to these systems that they are non-radioactive. However, as we move up through the periodic table, we see this drastically begin to change where the half-life measured moves into the range of a few years, months, weeks, days, hours, seconds, and less. Society itself functions in precisely this way. Across written history, as we have discovered new concepts and invented new technology, we have provided a higher energy environment to society, which has led to its transformation to new states. Long ago, these changes were few and far between, such as during the Iron and Bronze Ages. However, as we advanced, the rate of change notably accelerated. For example, with the invention of the steam engine and later the automobile, the world drastically changed. Even more so, with the inventions of radio, telephone, television, computer, and the internet, we saw both an increased rate of change as well as more substantial changes to the world around us. In parallel with our society's entry into the radioactive instability of the upper limit of its periodic table, we have entered the nuclear age with nuclear power and nuclear weapons. It is as if we are redlining our car in a given gear, and in order to not blow the engine, it is necessary that we shift to a higher gear. This is done by increasing the size of the gear that is being used. In society, this would be the framework that we operate by as a whole, which is built upon a portion of all possible information, in a similar way to choosing a gear from amongst varying gear sizes on a bike. When we choose a larger gear, we are very literally able to incorporate more material in keeping our motion forward. If we do so too soon, like trying to get a bike into motion when starting from too high of a gear, then it can be extremely difficult or even nearly impossible to do so. On the other hand, if we stay in too low of a gear, then we can overly exert ourselves trying to go faster while facing very little resistance and at best maintaining our speed. In our current state, due to observable instability, it is time that we shift gears. A larger gear for society to function by would be one which incorporates more material in its making. Moreover, like using a sturdy metal versus a weak plastic, the strength of the gear depends on the substance it is made of. Denser materials produce more functional and durable gears. Additionally, there are critical differences still even when metals are used to make a material. Alloys are stronger and harder than pure metals. An alloy is a material that is specifically made by using a mixture of several metals. A pure metal has identical atoms, and as a result, they arrange themselves in regular layers. This allows the layers to slide along one another relatively easily compared to alloys, which are made of different sized atoms as a mixture of metals they are composed of. The layers of each function alike to rubbing sheets of glass together versus rubbing coarse sandpaper together. As a result, alloys are physically stronger and harder than pure metals. In the same way, when the gear of society is built on dense material from a wide array of fields of study, all brought together into one single cohesive and functional unit, then society itself can safely shift to the next gear. This next gear is alike to changing octaves by going from the atomic scale to the planetary scale and beyond. In order to do this, many must merge into one as the atoms of a planet merge. This process brings with it new manifestations of long-term stability that are not exhibited in the radioactive state, just as shifting gears can prevent engine damage when redlining. This merging process can be compared to a lens. When many light rays come from the sun separately, they blanket around us with a generally uniform stream of energy. However, when we pass this very same light through a lens, such as a magnifying glass, it brings all parts which pass through the lens together to a focal point. At this location, we can create fire from the concentration of the energy. When we each focus on something, we direct our portion of society's lens towards that portion of reality. As a result, the energy that passes through us is passed along to feed our focus. When we share the same focus, we act as a larger lens composed of more parts. This process feeds all that we experience together. When our focus is not shared, then the energy passing through us as a whole is distributed widely as it becomes scattered to all our focal points. However, when our focal point is the same, then it is additive. This process then feeds our society at large so as to provide sufficient activation energy for transformation to occur. Moreover, just as the properties of the material of the gear plays a role, so too do the properties of our lens. As we expand our awareness both outward to more concepts as well as inward to the depth of information in each, we increase the density and volume of our own portions of the lens. With denser and larger lenses, we are able to focus more energy, and as a result, feed the transformation of society towards our perceptions of how the world should be, where in any given moment, how it is the sum total of how we all believe it should be. We all play our part shaping the world, and it's up to us to decide where we direct our focus and thereby what we give power to.